Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live broadcast of Speaking the Truth About Money with Martin Coward and Joy the Wise Woman. I am both Martin Coward and Joy the Wise Woman. Martin Coward is my human name, and Joy the Wise Woman is my spiritual name, because I have come to learn that we are both fully human and fully spiritual. And all of our power actually is in our spiritual side. The human side is only going to be here for a short period of time and has learned to act as a servant to that higher spiritual part of myself that I call Joy the Wise Woman. And I'm so excited today to have another very spiritually aware coach in the coaching industry, and a very successful one. His name is Tony J. Selimi, and he is an award-winning life coach, business coach, who's doing so much to make the world better for everyone, and especially for the LGBTQ plus community. And I just met him a couple of weeks ago, and I just fell in love with him because he's doing so much wonderful work to change the world, to make it a better place for everyone. He's done some TEDx talks, he's written some books, he's created some award-winning documentaries, all sorts of wonderful things to get the world out and change the world. So, Tony, I want to ask you, and one, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for taking the time to come be my guest today. I'm just so excited to hear what your story is. And I'd like to start with that. I'd like to start with your story about how you came to be this coach that's helping the world today. Because I imagine there was probably a story in there where things were not quite as you weren't quite as aware as you are today, let's say, of your superpowers. So tell us a little bit about you and how you became this leader in coaching and in the world today.
First and foremost, thank you so much for having me on your show with a purpose to inspire positive action, love, and transformation in the lives of billion people. That's one of the missions I have in my heart. But also anybody out there who finds themselves struggling and in situations which may currently be perceived as one that you cannot overcome. Now, when you have been brought up in a culture and environment that you've been told all the time, you can never be somebody, when you're never good enough because of your creed, because of your color, because of your religion, and most of all, when your life is threatened because of your sexuality and your identity you identify with, then to find out on a journey that you can actually make a difference, it's something that pushed me through the worst challenges to be able to keep going on and awaken this intelligence and wisdom, knowledge and skills that I now share with the world, for the purpose more people can benefit from that. Because in my heart, since I was a kid, I knew it is unjust to let another human being feel less off than you are, where every religion out there promotes that we are all children of God. But then you have all the fallacy behind that when depending where you come from, depending what beliefs you may have, you are programmed to think that you'll never summon to be somebody great and make a difference in the world.
Yeah, I love that. So tell us a little bit about where were you born, and I know that you were born in a difficult country, and as a fellow gay man, I believe you're a fellow gay man. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. In a country where maybe that's not tolerated, but I know you were in a country that was strived by civil war. Tell us a little bit about what that did to your own internal belief system, being in a country that's not so tolerant of being gay, and also in a country that was torn up by civil war.
First and foremost, I mean, I'm the youngest of 6 children, and I have an incredible, hardworking family.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, we were part of a communist regime as part of former Yugoslavia. And frankly, nobody even used the word gay. Anything with the word gay was associated like you are the animal that needs to be killed and not let in the society. So therefore, a lot of my emotions, a lot of my fears, and a lot of my challenges were suppressed inside of me. And I used all of that to become the best I can be in education. So therefore, thriving when it comes to science, when it comes to mathematics, when it comes to physics, and trying to understand life itself. So, you know, those emotional things that were pretty heavy I had to endure abuse, not from family members, from the environment in which. Also being bullied at school. And on top of that, the civil war fell upon us all, which destroyed the entire identity. And suddenly, at the age of 20, as a teenager, I find myself homeless on the streets of London, not speaking the language, not knowing anything about the UK, not having friends, not having roof over my head, and then thinking about the family and people who died in the war, and then trying to come to terms with why, for some reason, my life was saved, and how, for some
Wow.
reason, by some
I
divine nature and
yeah.
God, I survived, and here I am crying homeless on the streets of London.
I love that. That is priceless, Tony. I mean, here you were, a 20-year-old, and when you're 20, we're actually pretty vulnerable and have to leave your family, your friends, and your country, and end up on the streets of London, and you couldn't even speak the language. But somewhere deep inside of you, there was something that you were listening to and you were saying yes to. Is that pretty close to it?
Yes, I mean, I'm a firm believer of being able to listen to that heart's voice. And for me, the heart is where your soul sits.
Yeah.
And when you have that kind of bridge open between your mind, heart, and your soul, this true, authentic voice comes forward in you, and pretty much becomes louder when those challenges presented in front of you make you feel like you are nobody.
Yeah,
and when you're able to listen to that, because the challenge I've seen in myself and millions and billions of people out there is trying to distinguish the voices of others, which tend to overpower that authentic voice that comes from the essence of your being.
Yeah, what I would say is you found that the voice of authority, the voice of love in your heart if you just quiet your mind a little bit, and sometimes you're forced to, can actually drown out the voice of fear in your head.
Yes, I mean, the head, I call the head and our thoughts like a powerful river. If it doesn't have any bed, it can destroy everything in front of you. Mm-hmm. So therefore, one of the things that I spent 30 years of, apart from doing cross-disciplinary research across many disciplines and many, I would say, religions, and mixing science with spirituality, I wanted to really create a methodology that people can help, for them to be able to not only organize the mind, but also direct it in a way that it listens to your heart voice and it honors that voice that comes from within you. What is your vision? What is your mission? What is your purpose? And what actions you need to do every single day for you to be able, bit by bit, to deliver what you are called to do while you are in this human life.
Yeah, I love that. I want to focus on something you just heard you say, is that you have to have a daily practice. Your methodology sounds like it has a daily practice. Could you tell a little bit about what that daily practice is for you, that you use to develop into a methodology that you're sharing with others, that's able to help you quiet that mind of fear and noise and confusion, so you can listen to that deeper voice within you of love?
So, this came about through overcoming almost like 20 years of challenges, going from that teenager living homeless, penniless, and in destitute on the streets of London, to actually self-funding my education, graduating from one of the top engineering universities with management studies and psychology, and then building a very successful career in technology, and also delivering £1 billion technology transformation programs and managing people and transforming technology departments. Now, as part of that, I always had the desire to understand a lot of the stuff that happens in the spiritual world, because that is something that helped me when I was a kid. I was struck by an illness, and I was my doctors back then told my parents I will die in 3 days. So they took me back to those spiritual teachers that my parents followed, which is from the Sufi side of work, that apparently who told my parents, he'll be a master healer, he'll go around the world and do incredible work. And my parents, well, he's dying. The doctors told us he's dying. And apparently this teacher took me back in his hut in the middle of the mountains in Macedonia. I was quite young to actually even understand those things, and I was very ill. And the more I spent time with him, the more I started to get back into my body. And he was only using natural things to be able to help me heal, but also introduced me to different healing modalities that for me were very natural. So when people would have headaches or pain, I'll just put my hands on them and suddenly their headache, migraines disappeared. So, I started to then understand the science, how come science is blinded to this incredible work a lot of spiritual people out there do in the world, and then how spiritual people are also blinded by this incredible work the scientists do. So from a very young age, I wanted to merge those two worlds and create effective tools and methodologies that people can use. So this did not happen until 2012. And the reason it didn't happen because, going through those challenges, being homeless and trying to settle myself into the UK and trying to bring myself back to some form of normality required a lot of sacrifice to be done for me to stepping into this power of mine that, was always there, but always
somehow. Let's give him a moment. Sometimes we do lose a little bit of we have some technical difficulties. I'm sure he'll be back in just a minute. But I think this is a fascinating story about going to see a Sufi, and the scientist said he was going to be dead in 3 days, and what he discovered was that his parents took him to a Sufi, and he began to learn how to be healed. And he learned all about there's a bigger power within himself that's more healing than science. And he has spent most of his
somehow we got disconnected.
Yeah, I was just kind of summarizing what you said, and I was just fascinated about your story that you were a young boy and your parents took you to a doctor and they told you science. The doctor said you're going to be dead in 3 days, and they took you to a guy who was a Sufi, who's a mystic within the Muslim that world, and said no, he's not. He's going to be a teacher and a healer in the world. And he went out and spent several days with him in the mountains and healing and learning this modality as a very powerful tool. And then you took those two when you were older in 2012, I believe you said, and began to marry those two modalities together, because and I would agree, they're not in science and spirituality are not in conflict. One is, actually from a spiritual perspective, spirit, the creative energy of the four, everything can be explained by energy, frequency, and vibration. And it's the energy, frequency, and vibration of creative energy that's created understanding in the way we understand energy. We understand spirit today. I like to say, well, back in the days when we didn't have the science, we called things spirit because we couldn't see them. They were just things we couldn't understand. But today with science, we can see it as we understand what we can't see as energy. And I'm gonna let you just pick it up from there, because that's what I was kind of trying to summarize what you said when we lost contact. So why don't you pick it up from that place, Tony?
Yes, I mean, having this kind of incredible background also was something that a lot of people around me, no matter what decade I was living, they always saw me as an old soul. They always saw me as ahead of time, as innovator of bringing this harmony between spirit and science. Now, when I started on this, I came to the awareness, and when I started harmonizing this with a powerful phrase that became the center point of writing my first book and the methodology I'll share in a bit. Spirit without matter, it's emotionless. And matter without spirits is expressionless, and vice versa. The method that means that both spirit and matter work in harmony to express and move through time, space, and energy. And when you understand that there's no separation in that, you start to truly understand the separation within. That really is the root cause of all the problems we as human beings, first and foremost, create in ourselves, then also spread that through our human energy field, which I talk about in my next book, #Loneliness, into the environment.
I want to interrupt you for 1 second here. And here's a question. And I would like, he says, how can we help a refugee LGBT community that lacks support in their shelter? How would you apply these spiritual principles to help them? What would you, because how would you help? That's what I do. My life is right now dedicated to helping our LGBTQ brothers and sisters living in Africa right now to empower themselves. How would you advise them to use these spiritual principles to empower themselves?
Now, first and foremost, it's when I accepted myself for who I am and for all that I am, my environment around me changed. Now, because we have thousands and thousands of thoughts every single day, in average, we think about 70,000 of thoughts, out of which 85% of it in our subconscious mind are all negative. A true transformation truly happens when the individual is going through that internal self-reflection and being able to see the two sides of the equation. Meaning, for every perceived event outside ourselves and inside ourselves, there's the counter effect and counterbalancing effect and situation. But when we go through challenges, which are very difficult, sometimes the mind has not been programmed to see the other side. So therefore, the more we go into polarized way of thinking, the more we go into victimhood, the more then we go into we can't change, the more we create that reality of having those people. Now, also what I've seen in myself transforming, when I was fully in peace with who I am, the external environment around me and all these people who once were, I would say, my enemies, started sending me beautiful messages of actually being now the admirers for living an authentic life and showing through my work of who I am. Not through my words, not through my stuff, but through my actions and through my commitment to better humanity.
I got it.
Now, it's something.
I want to pause you because you got a lot to say, but I want to break it down into something they can actually use. What you just said was so powerful that I want to break that down and go a little deeper into that concept of what, if you can resolve, what I'm hearing you say is if we can go inside ourselves and we can resolve those inner conflicts and love and accept ourselves first, then all of a sudden the outer world begins to look like the peace inside our hearts. Is that what you just said?
Yes, I mean, I can explain even the science behind that, Martin.
Don't go to the
whole science behind that.
But I don't want you to go there because the guy asked you a question. How I'm living in a refugee camp. Yep. I need help right now. They don't need to know the science. They need to know what can they do today.
Yes, there are many people who were in the Nazi refugee camps, and those who survived are those who went inside.
Okay, that's what we want to talk about. How do they go inside? How do they do that? How does one go inside?
First and foremost, number one rule is no one can dictate what you think. So choose wisely what thoughts on every single day you want to bring forward. So no camp, no oppressor can go into your head and choose your thoughts. So this is something very practical. No matter where you are, no matter what situation you are, you can start changing the thoughts. Most people want to see an evidence in outer reality. However, those thoughts have been accumulated for all their lives, and a lot of people want a quick result, quick change. Unfortunately, the Tony J. Selimi who's today and going around the world and transforming people's lives did not happen like that. It happened through 18 hours every single day of deep work, as well as basically sleeping. Since I was in the army and being in the trenches, I got to learn to sleep with 2 to 4 hours a day. And I also learned to respect every second of my life because I never knew I'm going to have another moment breathing. So most people, first and foremost, disrespect themselves, disrespect the reality where they're in because of some form of judgment in themselves and outside of themselves. So they can actually go inside of them and start changing the dialogue they have with themselves.
So let's slow that down a little bit. So what you're saying, I believe, is that we have an internal dialogue, and that I'm going to call, in the work I do, I call that shadow, because the shadow of the light has its own belief system that's the negative of the truth. That's what a shadow is. It's the negative of the light. It's the negative of the truth. And the shadow in us, this is what I coach, this is what I'm a teacher. The shadow has its own belief system. And it's always a belief system that says you're not good enough. And it's constantly looking out into the world for reasons to validate that lie. So what I'm hearing you say we have to do is we've got to go inside ourselves and get quiet and quiet the mind and look at those thoughts, those attacks, those things that say you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, those people are bad, all those negative thoughts that make us feel bad, that if we can go inside of ourselves long enough and quiet those thoughts, quiet those minds. And another thing I like to do is maybe inquire, is that true that I'm not good enough? Is it true that I'm a loser because I'm gay? Is it true that I've got something wrong with me because I'm in a camp, for example, or I'm being oppressed? No, it's not true. What is truer? The truth is I'm a loving, creative human being with a big heart. And I find if I go through that exercise, I can transmute that fear energy into love energy. I'd love for you to comment a little bit on what I just said in relationship to how you do it.
Yes, I mean, to add on to that, Martin, it's, I think not only the quietness in the head does not really happen if we just command it. But what happens is if we replace those thoughts with more empowering thoughts, and the more we do that, the more the programming inside of us starts to get elevated. And as part of that journey, you start pretty much quieting what's happening in your head. Mm-hmm. Why? Because those one-sided negative thoughts starts losing the power they have over you. And then the complementary side of things start really creating an objective mind. And unfortunately, I'm not somebody who subscribes to one-sided psychology. One-sided psychology meaning avoiding pain and seeking pleasure. No, we are beings who need to integrate pain and pleasure and have this crucifix within ourselves, which is the temple of our being, which is love and that voice from within us. Yeah, which means being able to balance those one-sided perceptions so we can go through the next stages of our growth and evolution.
Yeah, I like that because we tend to, and from a binary perspective, we tend to associate pain with bad. Well, pain is just pain. Pain is part of the human condition. And when we learn that nothing bad is ever going to happen, because nothing bad ever, there is not a world of goodies and baddies. There is a world of light. And included in the human condition, in the human experience, we experience pain, emotional pain, physical pain. And it's our fear of that pain that keeps us, because we're going to have pain. Life includes pain. In Scott Peck's famous book, he says, life is difficult. Life is challenging. Life includes pain. When we begin to realize that life includes pain and challenging and all these things, it no longer is painful and no longer challenging.
Yes, I mean, I'm a firm believer because having delivered over 20,000 of coaching, training, and healing hours, it is at the border of pain and pleasure that we can create the biggest transformation in ourselves.
I agree.
And basically, most people don't have that kind of fine line and balancing act within themselves. So when I started writing my first book, and I spent 12 weeks, 8 hours a day in meditation. Now, I don't meet many people who can commit to that kind of work that you want to do with yourself. Nobody pushed me. What I wanted to do is I wanted to reach that space within myself where I'm not fidgety, because it becomes very difficult for you to sit in one position and not to move. Now, it takes a lot of training for you to come to that space where you simply become present with what is without the mind judging or forcing you to do something. So most people, they won't spend the time. They won't spend what it requires for you to do that full transformation. I have many people around me that have been in my life all my life. Some of them haven't even moved from the space they were 30 years ago. And other people who choose the road to self-empowerment, self-improvement, self-development, and seeking out their people to help them out, they actually start on the journey according to what their momentary values may be, because our values are something that keep building on. The more your awareness grows, the more you as an individual grow, the more this inner work we do. So, what came out of those 12 weeks, 8 hours a day meditation was a very clear methodology that pretty much updates quite a lot what is out there into a whole new level, where people today who are facing today's challenges can use it to transform their reality inside out. And the acronym of the methodology is ALARM, TJS Evolutionary Alarm. And it has 25 principles. So although it's like this 5-step method, but in effect, it has a 25 principles. When followed consistently in the order given, you will consistently start empowering and upgrading your mind and what's going on in your mind, in your psychology, in your subconscious mind. Then become masterful in the way you manage your emotions. And most people who have troubles also comes because they have emotional charges for so many different things in their psychology. Therefore, it takes a lot of energy for you to manage those emotions. Instead, that energy is not being used for the things that your heart, body, mind, and soul wants to bring into this world. But then to empower your relationships, to empower your social life, to empower your career, empower your business if you are a business owner, and pretty much to empower yourself financially. Now, a lot of people tell me they want to make a difference in the world. That difference starts with making a difference in your world.
I love that.
If you're not going to empower yourself financially to the level that you are capable of, there's no chance you can empower other people.
Yeah,
why?
absolutely.
Because
it's always got to be
in a wise way can make a huge difference in the world.
It's always got to be it's always an inside job, isn't it? It's always an inside job. I want you to comment on Ellie's comment about I find self-hypnosis helps with meditation. How would you want to comment? I mean, one, I want to say, Ellie, thank you for sharing this. And I'm glad that you found a tool that helps with your meditation. I personally love sound baths. I take sound baths all the time. I love them. They really help me get out of my head and into my heart. Tony, we got a few more minutes left. Why don't you just talk a little bit about a technique, maybe hypnosis? Is there a specific technique that someone can just, who's never meditated in their lives, and they're not going to spend 12 hours. What is one simple thing people could do right after they quit watching this show to get out of their head and into their hearts, to empower themselves with this new stuff?
One technique that consistently has been proven effective with myself and the thousands of clients I've helped is, before you do any form of meditation, take pen and paper and download everything into your mind in that paper and paper. Just keep writing until you can't think of anything. And when you do that, drop your book and close your eyes and use breathing as a way for you to silence your mind. Meaning, your mind, when you start breathing and with your eyes closed, pretty much your entire focus is on the breath. Nothing else, just that sound of your breath. And that can pretty much, when you do that effectively so many times, you come into a different awareness of what's happening inside of you. So I think taking everything while you have a busy mind, putting down in a notebook, it's a brilliant way before you start a meditation.
I love that. That is such great, clear, easy to follow advice. So what I'm going to recap that is, particularly if you're new to meditation and like how do you quiet the mind? It's just constantly thinking of stuff. And what Tony is suggesting is get a journal.
Yes, I mean, in Path to Wisdom, one of the principles is
all that stuff, write it all down, get it all, empty your mind literally by writing it.
Yes,
then
in
sit
Path to
down
Wisdom, in the
and go ahead.
methodology, I share more strategies of how people can use meditation. And the lady who asked about hypnosis, for sure, there are many different ways you can use them. But if the mind is busy with so many other things, no matter what tool you use, it's not going to be as effective as it was intended to be. So whether it's hypnosis, whether it's I have like a full meditation solutions on my website that I released that I use consistently with my clients to bring people into that equilibrium. One is designed for opening up the heart chakra. And people, it's one of my most downloaded meditations to bring people into this heart space. And it's called Open and Awaken Your Heart Center. People can get it on iTunes or on my website. And the other one, it's about creating that emotional mastery because, daily, especially in today's fast-paced world with so much uncertainty around us, Martin, most people's responses to the outside stimulus is through their emotions, which then by the end of the day leaves them feeling depleted, de-energized, and not having enough focus on the things that matters to them. So I even created a meditation for that. And some of my clients used to say, well, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to spend 30 minutes or 45 minutes doing your long meditation. So I created a very short, energizing meditation, which you can do it in 10 minutes, meaning even if you travel on the bus or if you are on a train, you can put it on. Even if you go on a toilet break when you're at work, you can put it on and feel energized.
I
And the
love
other
that.
part, which I see a lot of people complaining, it's about how to build wealth and how to turn your gifts into wealth. So I created a meditation for wealth building to really create that space in your head where you start to see opportunities of everything around you, how you can turn your knowledge, your skills, your calling to do a service and bring value into monetary form. And so when I went through those sort of things with Path to Wisdom, with the methodology, also comes those meditations that people can use. And when you keep reusing them, one of the things I've done across 850 TV and radio stations, I got people to take a Path to Wisdom, hold it in there, close their eyes, bring themselves into that heart space. We started this broadcast with you, and ask the book specific question. And consistently, everybody who's done that exercise with me, they got a direction and answer towards that. So the tools are out there, whether it's my books, whether it's your work, whether it's other people. The question remains is whether you follow that heart calling for you to first and foremost improve yourself.
Yeah, you got to do your own work. You got to, it's the old cliche, you can lead someone to water, but they're going to have to do their own drinking. You can show them stuff, but they're going to have to slow down long enough to listen to their own heart and find out what is it you want to do. Do you want to continue listening to your head that's got you miserable? Or do you want to slow down just long enough, take some 10 minutes? And you know what I find? The ego, the shadow, it does not like to meditate. And it will find a million reasons. It would rather go clean the toilet than sit down and be quiet for 10 minutes. I'll tell you. And I've been doing it since I'll be 68 next month. And I've been meditating since I was 25 when I ran into a bunch of crazy Christian mystics in a chapel in Orlando, Florida, back when I was 25 years old. And I said, wait a minute, what are these people are doing? They're getting at church, they're getting into something that this makes a lot more sense than all the nonsense they try to teach me in Sunday school. They try to teach me how there was a place within us where God lived. And that made sense to me. So that's why I started meditating over 40 years ago. And I have become a master at that. And I do live in heart space almost most of the time. And that's what I teach. And that's what I teach people how to get into this heart space. So I want to thank you so much. Before we go, I want you to give people, you've got a lot of great information and how do people find you? What's the simplest, easiest way for people to find you? They want to get to know you. They want to be part of your program. Maybe they want to hire you as a coach. What's the best way for people to find you, Tony, so that you can help them?
Well, first they can search me on Google. There's like pages and pages of things in Google, but they can go to my website, tonyselimi.com. And in there, they'll find links to all of my social media, but also they can download a free chapter of my book. But, it's another way, start reading the books. They were written for the purpose of transforming the lives of 1 billion people and hopefully contribute towards nudging humanity into a direction where we can leave a better future for the generations to come.
I love that. And I'm just so grateful for you coming on the show, but more than that, to share your wisdom, because you're doing so much to change the world. And I believe the world since the pandemic, I think, well, maybe before the pandemic, I mean, it took us almost 14 billion years to get here, but we seem to be rapidly evolving into a higher level of consciousness across the globe at a more collective consciousness than we've ever done in the past. Probably for a lot of reasons, but I think this kind of technology that allows us to get in and continuing to share our wisdom and knowledge with the world, because we're just sharing what people already know. That's what I find as a spiritual. I don't, as a spiritual teacher, I don't teach anybody anything new. I just help remind them of the truth, and you do the same. And I am just so grateful for you coming on the show today and sharing some wisdom with our audience. And let me just give a quick shout out for something we're doing, an invitation to you. If you would like to get to know me and get to know more, we have a Facebook group called Financial Heart Space for LGBTQ plus meaning our allies, for business leaders and change agents. And inside that private community, we do all this work. We're looking at these issues. It's a safe environment for you to be welcome to come in and get to know each other and support each other in this movement toward a higher level of consciousness we call heart space. Another thing that I'm doing right now that I think has been really exciting is we've got so many wonderful change agents, and you came to the very first one, I believe. We've got so many wonderful business leaders and change agents out in the world. We've started doing this Thursday afternoon at 4:00 Eastern Daylight Time, LGBTQ plus business exchange and networking event for people to come on and talk about what they do, talk about who they are, what they do, how they got here, just like today. And more importantly, what is the impact they're making on the world? How you add value? And then how do you buy your products? We're creating a business exchange for people like us and like you to come into the world and share your wisdom and knowledge and build a community out of that knowledge. So thank you for you being the first person to attend our very first event to get it off the ground. We had another one yesterday that we use this more, I want to call it a more interview style format, where we ask these 4 basic questions we just asked. And that's, who are you? What do you do? How'd you get here? What's your story? What's your why? The third one is, well, tell us what's the biggest value people get when they buy your stuff. And the third one is, how do they buy it? And I find by giving people the 4 answers to the 4 questions every consumer has before they buy, they're more likely to buy your products and services. And that's what we want for people, for our people. We want people to buy our services and buy our products because it's going to make an impact on the world. So thank you so much, Tony, for being with us today. And I hope that you will come back and visit us again sometime really soon. Join our community. And also, if you haven't, go grab one of his books, because I find that, let me ask you a question. Now, your book's also in an Audible format? I love.
Yes, all of my books are in all formats. Why? Because learning is very individual. And some people, for me, I love all formats. Why? Because when I do things every single day, when I travel, for me, it's easier to have an audiobook or Kindle. But whenever I can, I also recommend people to read physical books. The energy of each format is very different.
Yeah.
And when you combine all of those things, you can actually maximize the investment in whatever you're reading.
Thank you. I completely agree. And I love to listen to Audible books, especially when they're narrated by the author, because I find that very transformational. They're getting a personal coaching session from the author of the book with some knowledge. So thank you, dear. And may love and prosperity. I know we've gone over our 30 minutes, but I've had so much fun talking to you, and you've given us so much wonderful wisdom and knowledge. It's our show. We can go as long as we want to, quite frankly. So thank you for going over with me. It's been worth it. And may love and prosperity prevail across the world.